to the show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Off the Mats Podcast. And Merry Christmas, because this comes out on Christmas Day. But if you listen to it on Tuesday, then Happy Boxing Day. I don't fucking know. But Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Kwanzaa, also on the 26th, too. So, that's beyond the point. So today's guest is a new guest to the podcast. I actually was on a podcast recently with this gentleman. We were on Nerd Rage Radio together, and just hearing his story, I was like, holy shit, dude, I'm going to have you on my podcast. But don't tell all that, because that's a bit much. Like, let's do that for the second episode. You can't just jump into the first episode with the shit that you dropped there. But the dude, like, looking at him, he's like, looking, was like, holy shit, this dude works out. And then, Joe, who's part of Nerd Rage Radio, has been a guest here, was like, oh yeah, he's also done BJJ. I was like, okay, yeah, you definitely got to come to the show, even if we don't talk about Jiu Jitsu. So my guest for this episode, I want to welcome Mr. Daiyabolic, but we're just gonna shorten it to Daiya as we talk, because that might be a mouthful for a bunch of y'all. So Daiya, what's going on, friend? How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for making the time. I know I tend to reach out to people, and I don't normally mean for it to be like so short notice or a quick turnaround. It's more like, hey, would you be interested in doing a podcast? And I'm thinking in my mind initially, like maybe like 3, 4, 5 weeks down the line. And then I turn around like, hey, so what are you doing next week? So
initially I thought I was gonna have to drive to like Baltimore or something, but I was like, man, so I was like, well, just let me know. But then this is all from home, so this makes it super easy. I can pretty much do it whenever.
Yeah, definitely try to be as convenient as possible. Even the in-state, if possible, if you're nearby, I'm like, hey, let's record in person. But with schedules and everything in life, like being able to record remotely makes everything so much easier. So had you said like, yeah, I want to do it in person, I'd be like, well, you let me know your schedule and I'll make it work on my end. But this is perfect as well. So one of the big things, as we're doing Nerd Rage Radio and listening to Joe and then yourself both talking really about a lot of health and fitness and working out and everything, I kind of wanted to get into that.
Okay.
A big part of it is because for me, I try to like drag inspiration from individuals like yourself, because it's like, hey, I used to work like before I got into jiu-jitsu. That was like what I did. I just worked out and just played sports. And then I was like, I'm gonna do jiu-jitsu. And then I was like, wait, I don't, when people tell, oh, dude, you're really strong, and you think it's a nice thing at first, and it's not. So I've kind of fallen out of that. And for myself, it was like, well, how do I get back? Well, let me talk to individuals who are in that world. And really, I just kind of want to know your story. So for yourself, could you, I guess, kind of just let us know where it all started for you, is like your passion for fitness and, just taking care of your body.
I don't know if it was really a passion, to be honest. I mean, as a kid, I was pretty, I don't want to use the term athletic, because I was a very small and scrawny individual growing up. I mean, I graduated high school at, weighing $120, soaking wet, snow clothes on. So and I'm 5'9", so that's pretty skinny, but, I did do a lot of sports as a kid. I mean, my main sport was gymnastics. So I did that for a real long time. And I mean, even throughout my 20s and stuff like that, I didn't like the idea of going to a gym to lift weights. I thought it was pretty douchey, in all honesty. It was, it was just kind of one of those things where, I just don't want to be one of those meathead guys. And then went to college kind of late, in my late 20s. So then was still doing gymnastics then. And then, I mean, injuries and stuff just keep piling on and adding up. And by the time I graduated, I was still doing gymnastics, but then it got to the point where I was nursing injuries more than I could actually train the sport that I loved. And so so I started going to the gym initially just to sort of supplement my gymnastics training. So I was doing a lot of weird things. Like if somebody saw me in the gym, they would think, what the fuck is this guy doing? But it made the movements made sense to me because that would be the movement that I would be doing on some apparatus. So, and you know, it wasn't a lot of weight. It was pretty light, but then it got to the point where I just had to say, I got to stop doing gymnastics. It's not getting any better. I'm not getting any younger. Sure, this is enjoyable, but at what point am I just going to completely destroy my body? And it became not fun anymore because of that. I still love the sport. I just wish that, you know, I didn't have so many knee and shoulder injuries that stopped me from being competitive anymore. That was kind of the case there. And then because of that, I said, well, I'm already going to the gym and working out. I got to do something here. And so I just started kind of lifting weights just to maintain some establishment of, you know, what I've already created. You know, I wasn't out of shape. I was, you know, fairly fit, I would say. You know, I gained a little bit of weight in my 20s from, you know, just maturing, muscle maturity and things like that. So, but I was still only, I don't know, 135 pounds maybe. But, you know, and then I was like, well, I started getting stronger in the gym and then said, well, let's keep doing this and see what happens. And now here I am, like 40 pounds heavier and just balls deep in bodybuilding. So it became, you know, how I guess. So I started working out in the gym in 2014 and then didn't get serious about bodybuilding until summer of 2016, I want to say. And then, so since 2016, I guess I would say I really just kind of went full bore with it and said, this is what I'm doing now. And I just want to be big. I'm tired of being small. I want to be like a fairly large, muscular guy. And, you know, I'm still working on it. So
That's fair enough. I remember being in the gym and seeing guys doing fucking bizarre workouts. Like there was this one guy specifically, and we spoke to him a couple of times. Really nice guy. A lot of guys there, you know, were kind of meatheads, you know, relatively douchey. Not all of them, but they're a handful.
Yeah.
And this one guy, he would do like a pull up, you know, pull his body all the way up, do a dip, and then come back down, do another pull up. And I was like, yeah, what the, you know, I looked at my
muscle
buddy.
ups. Yeah.
It's like, fuck that guy.
Yeah. Those are pretty difficult. I mean, from gymnastics, like muscle ups were always pretty easy to me just because you've been doing them as a little kid for so long. It just becomes this thing that's fairly easy. And so I used to shit on CrossFitters a lot just because it's like, what these, I don't know what the fuck you guys are doing, but it's not a true muscle up. You're doing these weird kip things and they're pull up. Just stop. do it for real or don't do it at all. And it's, yeah, but I mean, it's now my mentality is, you know, as long as people are in the gym being active, I don't, you know, good on them. Do whatever, you know, I don't know their story. I don't know what their deal is. I don't know what their goals are, but at least they're doing something. So, I mean, it's no secret. America has a obesity problem. People don't want to do things anymore. They just want to, you know, sit on their phones or watch television, binge eat, you know, any excuse they can give themselves. Oh, I have a kid now. It's like nothing changed because you had a kid other than the fact that you had a kid. The only thing that changed is your 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 time priority, and you're just not managing your own time in the proper way to give yourself the same self-help. And it's kind of,
Sure.
it is a little sad, because you like, I want people to prioritize their own health. And I understand, like, if people have families, they also have to take care of their family. But what happens if everybody gets so far down the line that it almost becomes incapable of taking care of your family in the way that you want to, you know?
Yeah, there's a Instagram account. I think it's Mr. Jiu Jitsu, and he'll put things on there. There are times where it's like it may be motivational to some. There are other times where it's kind of like shitting on people, like, "Hey, get up, fat ass," you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know,
I
there
like
is kind of there's something to that though, because it's like, you know, if you're like, "Hey, I have a family now," you know, okay, well, if you have a
great.
family, you should be taking better care of yourself to live longer
Absolutely.
for your family and be able
Yeah.
to defend your family if you need to. Like, if a physical altercation broke out, whether you have training in any kind of a martial art or any kind of fighting
Oh,
combat style, that it's not even really so much that as much as like, can you physically defend yourself
defend
against
yourself.
somebody? And
Yeah.
like, I'm someone, you know, and you know, I admit it, you know, I've gained some pounds myself, and it's like, yes, I train jujitsu, but when I'm on the mats, like this weekend, I was on the mats and getting my ass whipped, and it's like, man, like, I know how to do jujitsu, but I'm also not in shape for jujitsu. We're doing King of the Hill, and I'm just getting mowed over every time I pass guard, and then it's my turn down, and I get stomped. I'm like, fuck,
Yeah.
I would get beat in the streets.
I mean, jujitsu in and of itself, though, is pretty. I mean, for a long time, that's all I did for a long time, and then, you know, you fall in and out of it, and it's always there. But and everybody moves at their own pace, you know. It's not,
Yep.
you know, some guys go 6 days. Like, I used to go 6 days a week. You know, then
Oh yeah.
you start dialing it back a little bit, and you're like, well, I need a little break, and you go 3 days a week, and you know, sometimes you only make it once a week, sometimes you only make it once a month. But it's, you know, as long as people are in there, and
Yeah.
it's a workout. I don't just because you're not lifting weights doesn't mean, you know, you're not being pretty active. Jiu-jitsu is a pretty demanding sport, and
Yeah.
it's also pretty rough on the body.
Oh yeah. And that's the thing about doing anything, like you said, just being in the gym period, whether it be doing jiu-jitsu, whether it be lifting weights, whether it be, you know, doing CrossFit, doing Muay Thai, boxing, anything. You're
Yeah.
doing something with your body physically, where it's not just come home, sit down on the couch, get comfortable, grab a bag of pretzels, you know, and you know, bullshit the rest of your evening away, and then say, "Oh, I don't have
Yeah.
time to work out." Where it's like, you've had
Like,
plenty of time to work
yeah,
out. It's
tons of
just a
time.
matter of doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you were doing jujitsu, how long? Like how long has it been since you trained? Like, is that something like far down the line uh since you've done it?
No, I put my membership on hold this past April.
Okay.
And I was actually going to go back, just because mainly because I was focusing on other things. And
Sure.
I planned to go back in like July, and then it just didn't happen, for various reasons. But you know, I still talk to some of the guys, but eventually I will. I'm always going to go back at some point. It's never, I'm at this point, I'm at this sunk cost fallacy where, you know, I've put so much time and energy into this over the years that including money, like I've thousands of dollars in geese at this point.
Yeah.
But it's, and it's like, well, I've taken this much time and energy, I can't really just quit forever, you know? And
Mhm.
and right now it's just one of those things where, like, bodybuilding took a took a front seat. And for a while I was doing both at the same time, and that was pretty brutal. I would go, and I was going 5-6 days a week. And then in the mornings, like I would go to work, and then right after work, I'd work out at the gym, and then I would go immediately to jiu-jitsu. And so it was just, my body's already wrecked.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go get beat up for an hour and a half. But and then I moved, and then so I had to switch my schedule around. But I kind of prefer to train in the mornings now. It's like the gym I go to is, I mean, when I first, when did I start there? I started there when I moved to the East Coast.
Where are you? What gym do you train at?
Team Passos in Northern Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like they're pretty competition. I don't want to say they're fully competition heavy or focused, but they do tend to focus more on the sport competition aspect of jiu-jitsu, which is fine. It's not that. I mean, I've been to a lot of other gyms where it's pretty laid back. It's a little like the place I started at was very laid back, and it was like I started doing jiu-jitsu in 2008 in Sacramento at Cassie Warnick's. And then that place, great place. Every time I go back to Sacramento and hang out with friends, I go and I try to at least go and train at least once. But it's that, and I trained there for about 3 years, going 3 to 4 times a week. And then I moved to the Bay Area and couldn't really, there was a couple, I would drop into a couple places once or twice a month. But then, gymnastics kind of took a front seat. So then it became less and less. And then, so it was, but then when I moved to the East Coast, I tried to find a spot, and I didn't train for a full year and almost 2 years, because then when I first moved to the East Coast, there was one place that had jiu-jitsu, and it was an MMA gym, and they only had jiu-jitsu twice a week. And they wanted to charge $220 or something and I was like, well, and I could only train twice, but you can do all the other things. I could do Muay Thai. And I was like, I don't care about all those other things. Like, I just don't. And so I was like, screw it. And I was like, well, can I drop in and do that stuff? And like, no, unfortunately you can only really drop in. You can do like a free trial. And so I was like, well, just going to the 2 jiu-jitsu classes for 1 week, the year I was in New York, just didn't seem worth it. So, and then when we moved down here, I was like, well, there's got to be more places. I mean, it's, DC area, there's got to be tons of places. Sure enough, tons of places. So I reached out to some of my old jiu-jitsu buddies. I was like, hey, here's some places I'm looking at. What do you guys think? And they told me to go to this spot. So, I loved it, because it was a much different, and I've been to some gyms that had a very structured, like I've been to Ralph Gracie's before, with like Kurt Osiander in the Bay Area years ago. Mm-hmm. And like, that was a pretty structured format. And this had like a similar vibe, which I don't necessarily like the structured format. As once there does come a point where you don't necessarily need the structure anymore. It's just sort of, especially when you're developing your own game and doing things. Because at Cassio's, you show up, you do warm-ups. He just throws out a couple random things that he's going to show you. And then you drill that a couple times, and it could be different from day to day. There's no flow to it throughout week to week or day to day. And then you're just rolling for like an hour, and you can choose, like, his only rule, as far as I remember, was white belts don't roll with white belts, which makes sense, right? But then at Team Passos, it was much different. So they had like beginners classes. They had like medium, advanced, all this other stuff. And then they had an actual curriculum that was, for this 3-month block, we're going to be starting in this position, and we're going to work how to pass, how to block the pass, how to set up various things. If you come to do this and they block it here, you have the option to go this way or that way, and that just progresses over several months, and then they switch it, and they switch positions, and that was hugely beneficial to me because I was a white belt for damn near 10 years because it's like I moved a lot. It's like, sure, the first 3 years I was very consistent. You're like, well, but for those 3 years, I had no idea what I was doing other than getting beat up every day. And one of our black belt friends at the time, like I was my buddy at the time, he was a blue belt. He's a black belt now. All my friends are black belts now, except for me. And is what it is. Yeah, is what it is. But it's I learned more from me and him would go get privates, do private lessons with our other buddy. His name was Adrian. And shout out to him. I don't know if he listens to this. Who knows? But he would give me and Tony. He would give me and me and my friend Tony just private lessons, and those were hugely beneficial because it was more. He helped me work on some of the more beginner things that every beginner kind of needs to have to formulate some amount of defense game to get themselves more time in a role. But then at Team Pasos, it was very much just, it's like, all right, we're doing this, we're going here. And I saw my game, and that's kind of when it clicked for me. Once there was like a clear set progression of skill that we could work on day to day for several weeks until moving on to the next thing. That's for me, that's when jiu-jitsu clicked. I was like, oh shit. Like this is how it's okay. Cause then you can start to develop things, and and not that I was just getting for 10 years, just getting beat up for 10 years. Cause it was like, I was okay, but if you're moving around, nobody's going to give you a promotion if you're only there for 6 months. Like they don't care, so and then I think, it took about a year at Tony's before he gave me a blue belt, which, and then when that was, like 5 years ago or something. What year is it? 2023?
2023.
Yeah. So it was about a year. Yeah. So, but that's, and you just keep progressing, and then you start developing your own game, and it becomes a thing. But I'm also not one of those guys that's the aggressor ever. It's like I live on my back. I live in half guard. It's like I'm fine. I'm fine with it. It's it's where I play my game. I have long limbs, so I found that I really like lasso and spider and just keeping dudes away.
No, I completely get that. I actually, this weekend when we went to open mat after class, I ended up in half guard, and I'd been working with my coach doing private lessons. We've been going over half guard and things like that. And he yells to me, he's like, all right, you're in half guard. We've been working on this. And as soon as he said that, it all went out. Had he not said anything, I probably would have just been like, boom, go time. But as soon as we've been working on this, I was like, oh shit. But I'm comfortable. Just, I'm not the aggressor myself. It's like, more like, I guess in terms of like striking, if, it'd be like a counter striker, it's like you attack me and I'm going to defend and then make my offense off of that defense type style.
That's a similar thing. Like, I see guys all the time. As soon as the buzzer goes, they're just after it.
Mhm.
Stop. I can't do it. It's like I don't know. Maybe it's like my cautious nature, where it's like, well, I don't want to do something quickly in haste, and then I get caught because I did something. It's like I would much rather react than and be the initial act.
Yeah,
But
I
sometimes I
agree.
wish. Sometimes I wish. It's like must be nice to be that, and I'm just not that. So
Mhm.
it's which is I'm fine. It's it's I find myself in defensive positions a lot, but I find myself in offensive positions a lot. It's just like but it took a long time for me to act in offense, because I wanted everything to be perfect, if that makes sense. It is like,
Absolutely.
and I remember one time we were rolling, and I was doing, and I got myself into the position that we had all been working on. And normally I'd gotten myself into that position before, and I knew exactly what to do. I just wasn't doing it for whatever reason. And I remember one of the coaching staff, who's usually like one of the office managers, Andrew. He's like, just go. You know what? Just go. What are you doing? Why are you waiting? Go. Just go. And I was like, all right, let's go. And it worked. I was like, okay. It's like, I just gotta go, I guess. He's like, what were you waiting for? I was like, I don't know. He's like, if the longer you wait, the more possibilities he has to get out of whatever. Like, you could hold him. Like, you're not necessarily going to hold him there forever. It's like, he's going to figure something out. He's got to. It's like, you gotta make the first move at some point. And so that, a lot of the times that's like one of those things that I end up working on when I find myself in a position. It's like, okay, here are my options. Pick one of them and go. That's, and things, and again, that's one of those things where things just opened up, right? And
Yeah.
it got better, but it's,
I always find my coach, I always hear my coach say, be first. And for me, much like yourself, is like, I can't be first. It's like, I
yeah,
just, like, I don't know if it's a perfection thing where it's like, if I'm trying to be first and I do something, it's like, oh shit, I did that just a smidge wrong, or whatever it may be.
whoops, that didn't work.
Yeah,
Do
that's
that again.
my middle name. Whoops,
Yeah.
that didn't work.
Whoops.
And they're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Uh, for you, when it comes to the time you've put in on the mat, and just kind of having a hesitancy, with the ideal of being perfect with the moves. Um, is that something that comes from, like, your gymnastics background as well? Because I would imagine there you got to be pretty spot on.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, actually. Um, I'm probably a little bit, but I think it's just like a fear of messing up doing, which, I've gotten better at at doing things that could quite possibly be a whoops, but it's and it I mean, even when I'm going consistently, sometimes I'll do something and I'm like, why the hell did I do that? I know not to do that, but here I am doing it. And it's
Yeah.
like, why? But it's I don't know. And I'm not really, I would assume that it all comes from just not wanting to die. I don't know. It's like, I'm
Yeah.
safe where I am now. Do I need to go further? Kind of. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah. But
I get that completely. Well, I mean, again, being in half guard, it's like, well, I'm safe here. They can
yeah,
attack. They
yeah,
can't do anything. And coach is like, hey, you should probably attack though.
yeah,
Why?
yeah,
They can't hurt me. And I've gotten criticized for that, or not criticized, but like yelled at for just that. It's like,
Yeah.
I'll let people get my back, and it's like, I know I can defend it.
I'm not doing
And
that.
and then, well, no, it's not like I'm choosing like, hey, you know what I'll do today. But it's like, if somebody gets my back, I'm not really in the there's no sense of urgency. I was like, well, I
Yeah.
know they're not gonna tap me, they're not gonna submit me. And meanwhile, my coach is like, what the hell are you doing? I was like,
Yeah.
I mean, I was pretty safe. Like, yeah, don't get comfortable being safe though. Fucking take risk. And I'm like, okay, next time.
It's
And then I don't.
it's I mean, a lot of the times now, especially when I come back from a break, like I'll give myself goals in the role. Like, okay, let's not worry about what we're drilling today, because we're gonna learn it again tomorrow. And it'll be, it's there. Let's not try to do that in roll today. If you happen to find yourself there, fine. But it's usually, it's like, you've been away for a bit. Let's just work on one thing and one thing only: guard retention, and that's it. Or it'll be guard pat, or like, because a lot of times, it's most of the time, like, our rules are like, I don't know how your rules are structured, but many times we don't get to choose our partner. Like the coach will just be like, you go with you, you go with you. And then sometimes we get to pick our own. It's like, all right, you pick somebody, and then they pick somebody and they go. But usually it's, you get anywhere between 2 to 4 minutes. One person starts in guard, the other doesn't. And then when the buzzer rings, you switch. And then it's like, whoever was on bottom now starts in guard, and the other person starts on bottom with guard. So it's so a lot of times it'll be just work on passing and controlling the hips, and just making sure guard retention when I'm on bottom. And when that starts to feel okay after about a week, because it comes back pretty quick, then I progress from there, and I say, okay, well, let's go, let's work on this pass, or this setup for something. And it really depends on who I'm rolling with too. Like if I feel confident, not that any role is easy, but it's like, if I feel confident that I'm not just going to get absolutely destroyed, like my whole game changes for that role, right? There's some guys at my gym where it's, if I'm paired up with them, I'm just prepared. One, I'm just prepared to die, and two, it's like I just don't want to get caught underneath them. That's the only.
Sure.
Like, nope, just don't want to. I don't want to play the smash game. That's never fun. But
I think I go in. I want to say from July up through October.
Mhm.
It was maybe up until Thanksgiving, pretty consistent going. But in I was only going on Saturdays, so any other class that I would go to, though, it's hard to know who's a wrestler and who's not. So if I pair up with someone and I'm thinking, oh, they've got on a white belt, not that I'm overlooking them, but it's like, okay, I might have a little bit of an upper hand just because I might know, at least how to control my breathing. I know these little things, and then all of a sudden it turns out it's a wrestler, and it's like, oh shit. Like Saturday, there's a young man, nice guy, very, very nice guy. And King of the Hill, he steps out in front of me, and I'm thinking, okay, this white belt, I got a couple tricks for this guy. I'm just gonna, go ahead and get a quick sweep. He came in, passed my legs immediately. I was like, shit, I gotta fight for my life now. Like, this dude knows how to pass a guard. I was like, all right, I gotta work here. And then afterward, when we had open mat, he and I paired up, and he moved very well. I don't think he's been wrestling a whole lot of time. He's fairly young, but he knew enough to give me fits. And I was like, that's one of those tricks now too, where it's like, just because they're wearing a white belt doesn't mean, there's some kid that, they're just learning the ropes. Like, a lot of these kids now, they put on a gi, or they show up to a no gi class. A lot of these kids know a thing or two, whether it be through watching MMA, whether it be, through just having a curiosity and picking up some Gordon Ryan, tutorials, and it's like, holy shit, these kids come in so good now. It's freaky.
Yeah, yeah, I haven't been to any of the beginner classes in a long time. Like I used to, I used to show up because I'd stopped going to night classes. So usually,
Yeah.
for several years, it was like the night classes were right after the beginner class, and so I would show up 10 15 minutes early, and they'd be doing rolls or something, and it was always nice when coach would need me for something, and Coach Josh would just tell me, hey, it's like, do you mind like stepping in and like rolling with one of these guys? I'm like, no, fine, let's do it. That was always nice, because he's like, and I don't know if it was he knew I wasn't gonna hurt them, or if it's like I'm just, because mainly when I would roll with these guys, like those guys, especially when they were brand new, like he would be like, hey, this is his first week, and he would tell me, it's like, this is his first week, and I'm like, okay, like all I would do is just keep them in guard. I'm like, just get out. That's like, and then you would just watch them get frustrated. It's like, hey, this could be way worse for you. Just saying. It's
I could be attacking.
Yeah, and I don't know if he paired me with them because he like, I'm sure he notices that that's what I would do a lot of the times with the brand new guys, which is like, that's nice. It's like, I remember when I was new, and it was not the same courtesy. It was just like, oh, it's like, new guy, he's only been doing jiu-jitsu for a week. I'm going to wish he never came here. Then you just keep showing up, and then they're like, oh man, you keep showing up. Like, oh.
For some gyms, that's kind of the initiation. It's like, beat him so bad that if he keeps coming back, he's
part of us.
Tough or dumb. But he wants to be here. So the first gym I ever went to, it wasn't exactly like that, but I know when I went in there, no one was helping me. Like, it was basically like, get out here, figure it out. And I went to 2 classes, and it was just, I just didn't get it. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to step away. And then I think maybe, let's say 6 months later, I ended up at the gym that I'm currently at. And it was a little different. They were a lot more approachable and welcoming. And they're like, I went in for my trial, and they paired me up with one of the kids who was one of the top competitors, but he showed me some moves and kind of threw me around a little bit, and I was like, okay, well, this is cool. I'm gonna keep coming back, because it wasn't like, again, just throw me into the full class and say, all right guys, hey, it's his first day. Wink wink. So
like, honestly, if my friend, because my friend Tony is who got me, he's like, you should come do jiu-jitsu with me. And so I was like, yeah, it's like, all right. He's like, this place is great. And if it wasn't for him, like having a friend that I could do jiu-jitsu with, I don't know if I would have stayed at Cassio's, just because it wasn't necessarily, not that they're not welcoming. Like, everyone there is welcoming, but it's, for me, the way I learn, that it wasn't necessarily the best scenario. And there were a couple people who, when I rolled with them, they would give me pointers, and after the roll, they would sort of, show me things and say, hey, like this, that, and the other. But I mean, a lot of the times it was not that, and it was just, oh, this kid sucks. We're gonna
grow on him.
I'm gonna make sure I get at least all of my subs in for the month on this roll. And that's not fun for anybody, but it's learning experience, sure. But it's and then some people, and I didn't mind the people that would do that, but not do it in a way where it was just like every 5 seconds. It's like, there was this one kid, I guess I don't know if he's famous. He's kind of famous now, I guess. But at the time, he was a blue belt, and he was probably like 16, 17 at the time. and he was so good. But I didn't mind. And when I first rolled with him, I was like, oh, maybe I can like defend against him. Okay. He's like, he's about my size, skinny kid. Like maybe, it's like, here's my chance. Not even close. Not even close. It's like, he was so good. And it was, I mean, that I've been go plotted one time, and it was from him when I was standing up. Like I stood up, and it was like, and he was like monkeying onto me, and I was trying to push him away. And next thing I knew, his ankle and shin is choking me. And I was like, wow, okay.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, you run into, those guys where you're their highlight reel. It's like, great. I see the camera over there in the corner. Yeah. Fuck, it's me today, I guess. But,
there was not. It's probably bad now because that's everywhere now. There was none of that back in 2008. No, nobody had that shit.
I've seen a couple cameras on some Saturday mornings when I look over. It's like, well, it is for open mat at this point. It's like, I see a camera there. And then I have to look at who I'm rolling with, because it's like, okay, your camera's there. Like the one thing, that you learn with getting submitted all the time is you start picking up defense. Yeah. So it's like, all right, I see your camera there. Guess what? You're not getting today. You're not getting your highlight reel. And then there's like, I have one buddy that I train with, and he's pretty reasonable with me. He knows that I got a lot of aches and pains on my body, so he'll try to go light, and I'll turn up the intensity to let him know, like, no, dude, just go. You can do things. And he went into deep half once, and I was coming off a groin injury. And it didn't even occur to me, like, because I felt fine. Then when he split me, I was like, oh shit. He goes, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I was like, well, we're already here. Just keep going now.
Might as well just
like, get that highlight. Yeah. But and again, there is something to it though. Some folks, kind of take to it where, like, look, you get submitted all the time, you start picking up a defense, you build this hard shell. And then there's some folks that are like, look, man, I'm not into it. I'm here to, like, actually learn kind of back and forth. I'm not here just be your punching bag. And like I said, there's some gyms that they're like, look, that's your initiation. You come in here and get your ass kicked, and then we know you're part of the team, which I don't subscribe to that thinking. I that's not at all. I don't think that's helpful. It can be, there are a lot of tough guys out there that train, those are the old ways, but I don't look at it that way. I look at, like, look, man, it's like toys. Don't break your toys. You break your toys, you can't fucking play with them anymore. It's that simple. So stop breaking them.
You just gotta glue them together and tie. I mean, I will say this, like if it is one thing that I can take away from Cassio's, out of all other things, it gave me a pretty phenomenal defensive base, because that's pretty much all I had. It's like, I don't think I could. I think I can count on maybe one hand in the 3 years that I was there where I got a sub, which, I mean, you're not allowed to roll white belts. So it's like, it's rare when they come. And it's like, and everybody is so good because they were doing the same thing that you went through years before, just getting smashed until they had a great defense where they could start working on other things. And it got to the point where I was getting a good enough defense to where I could do something, and then I moved. And then it was like, okay, well, now where are we going now? And it would be, a couple drop-ins here or there. UC Berkeley had a Jiu Jitsu club, but they were very spotty on when they showed up, and which is kind of how I got back into gymnastics, because they were initially meeting in the gymnastics gym. And I was like, oh wait, I can just do this. I was like, hold up. But and then and it's, I don't mind being the defense guy. It's not that that's all I do, but it's I'm fine with it. as long as people aren't breaking my shoulder. It's like, but
no, I agree. I'm the same way. It's like, if I know you got something coming up and you want to work attacks, I'll be your defender. Like I'm comfortable with it. And, you know, again, I get from my coaches sometimes, maybe you're too comfortable defending, which I mean, that's look, man, I'm working on that in therapy right now. You know, I got trauma, but
Yeah.
you know, all in all, however it goes, I mean, being on the mats, being in the gym, you know, doing something, I think goes a long way in not just physically, but also mentally as well. Because I know for myself, being on the mats definitely helps with, you know, my own personal mental health. Even though like I'll have a panic attack. I had a panic attack this weekend, just about to walk to class. I sat there in the car, I was like, okay,
Oh
here it
god,
is
it's
again.
like every day, dude.
Fuck. And
Like
then, you
every
know,
day.
yeah, well, like it be like it's gotten much better for me.
Yeah.
But it tends to happen. I'm wondering, I guess, because I'm going into a situation where I'm about to fight with people. He's like, oh, you know, your body
Probably.
goes into its own like, hey,
Yeah.
so what are you doing today? Oh, I'm about to go
This is
fight. No, you're not.
Like, this is a bad idea. What are you doing? What if you get hurt?
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
like what if they what if they make you climb the rope and you fall off? Like, why would I
Yeah.
have to climb? That's ridiculous. Yeah, but what
Yeah.
if? Like,
Yeah. Anxiety is a huge. I mean, there is, you know, I think jujitsu is a good uh, anxiety and stress reliever because when you're done,
mhm,
you feel great. You feel great
yeah,
about it. You're like, damn, really glad I went to class today when the whole drive there didn't want to go, but I was forcing myself to go, kind of thing. I mean, there are times when I would get there early and sit in the parking lot and just like vape until I was high as a kite. And then by the time warm-ups were done, like I would be feeling good. Like I'd be super high in warm-ups. And then by the time warm-ups were done, we're like learning and we're doing drilling. I'd be like, all right, I'm good to go. And it really helped calm the nerves. But then I didn't really necessarily need that as much. I think there does come up, at least for me, when my jujitsu's on, the anxiety is not nearly as bad. But then over time, and I think this, like, at least for me, my jujitsu starts to have a plateau, and I don't think I'm
sure.
progressing. I am progressing, but it's like everybody else is also progressing, and so there becomes this plateau. And until I break through that plateau, which is usually where I feel like I'm going home almost in tears because I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like I'm better than this. Why? Like I don't understand what the hell is happening right now. And usually that lasts like a week, maybe 2 weeks, and then out of nowhere, somehow you're just instantly better. If that makes any sense.
Hmm.
And it's almost like this weird, I don't know, transition. And I've talked to other people about this, and they're like, yeah, like I feel that same way. It's like you'll be doing really really well, and you're like and then over time it's like you're getting worse, and then out of nowhere you get better, but you didn't actually get worse. It was just like everyone else is also going through these peaks and valleys, and you're, you know, and nobody, not everybody's lining up. It's just like because everybody can't have, you know, a peak at the same time, obviously. Otherwise, it's like we're all so good and we're not getting so. No, that doesn't work. But
I have a friend who trains in Europe, and they always talk about, you know, in training, you know, they're getting ready for a competition, and they go to they go to training, they get their asses kicked, you know, they're getting the shit kicked out, and then, you know, they'll message like, dude, I don't know if I'm good enough, man. This like, what the fuck? It's like, dude, like, think about it this way: you're going into a gym with everybody who's learning all the same shit as you. They've trained with you for years. They know you, they know your moves. So it's not that you're
yeah,
not good, it's that they know your routine. But now you're
mm-hmm.
about to go out there against strangers.
Yeah,
And you know, if and you know, it's not like they're going in there and just getting smashed and they're not getting their sweeps, or they're not passing the guard, they're not, you know, getting submissions. You know, they're struggling. But it's like, okay, think about it this way: when you do get, you know, those couple sweeps, those couple passes, you know, your submissions, your back takes, you know, that was hard work on people who know that you're going to go do that.
yeah,
Now, you're going against people who don't know, you know, they know jujitsu, obviously, but, you know, they don't know your game. So just imagine how much better that's going to be now that you've gotten on somebody who knew it was coming anyway. And that's what I think about with training when I'm getting the shit kicked out of me. I'm like, well, we all drilled the same move today, and I can't make it happen.
Yeah.
It's because
Some
while
people do.
well, and I think about it whenever I'm learning to move, I'm not necessarily learning to move myself for offense. I'm learning it for defense.
Yeah.
So it's like if you and I are working on, over underpasses,
Mhm.
all I'm thinking about while you're drilling is how am I going to stop this when it's
Stop
time
you.
to do this,
Yeah.
in a live roll, or if we're doing situationals. I got,
Yeah.
all I'm thinking about is how to stop it, and vice versa. So
But that's
when I
what
can't get it on you, I'm pissed, but you've been working on defending it already.
but that's what everybody should be doing. And
Yeah.
I notice not everybody does that. Like even when drilling, it's and I hear the coaches yell at people for this. They're like, guys, you need to be an active drill partner. Like, doesn't
Yes.
mean just lay there. And it's like, and I pride myself on actually being like a fairly active drill partner, where it's like I'll give some resistance. It's like I'm
Yeah.
like just because it's like I'm gonna push back a little bit, or I'm gonna it's like I want a little bit of resistance. I mean, I'm not gonna give you 50% resistance or full resistance. It's just like, look, this is what I'm probably gonna do, and I'm gonna put a little pressure here. Figure it out. But a
Yeah.
lot of the times, and because I hate it when I'm drilling with somebody and they're just like limp. I'm like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? Like, defend me a little bit. Like defend me 10% on what you would do, so that one, you can figure out what could work or what is definitely not going to work. Because sometimes you're just like, well, I probably would do this, and then it was like, well, that definitely doesn't work because I can just do this, or it's like that
Mhm.
it doesn't work because there's nothing to block against. But it's at the same time, it's like when I'm given resistance, they can at least kind of feel the position and how and all the weirdness of it. It's not just like no one's just gonna lay there. They're gonna be moving around. And like a lot of times they're not even just gonna lay there on their back and give you full resistance. They're trying to get, especially for pass, they're trying to get out from underneath you
Mhm.
completely. And it is weird to me when people just don't, like, they have their shoulders completely on the ground, or like their heads on the floor. You're like, what is this? You don't roll this way. What are you doing?
Ooh, it's a weird thing when it's like, you know, like you said, when they're just kind of limp there, but also it's like you figure autopilot should kick in. Because
Right.
even when coach wants to demonstrate a move, sometimes that autopilot kicks in. They're like, no, just so I can demo the move, and
Yeah,
like you
let me
automatically
do
go
it.
to do something.
Yeah.
Even in drilling, that should always be a things like that autopilot. If you've been doing this long enough, especially, I mean, sure, if you're like a fresh white belt, let's say you're a month in, maybe you've got a little bit of leeway there, but still, we're gonna be like, hey man, you got to be an active drilling partner here, versus if
Yeah.
you've been doing this for over a year, 2 years, you should go into autopilot. Like if you're going for the a knee cut, you should automatically, as a person who's being passed, try to throw
Yeah.
in a knee shield.
Yeah.
That's automatic. Like there should be no way, no reason that you go for a knee cut on me and I don't try to put in a knee shield at
Like
all.
something, yeah. If that doesn't happen, there's something wrong. There's something wrong.
Yeah,
It's
like
or maybe like, and it not necessarily even just like throw the knee, but like at least put the knee up as if you're going to, and probably position your hips and your body away as if you're like, oh, he's coming, I'm getting
yeah,
away. But and that's, and if everybody knows, and that's another thing, like if when you're training at the same place for a long time, everybody should at least kind of know your game at some point.
yeah.
It's
Hmm.
like, especially if you've you're really good at a couple things and you tend to always be doing those things. So I'm a pretty big proponent in like traveling around and just going to other places
Yeah.
just for fun. It's like you like, I mean, I haven't been to my spot since April, but there's a place right down the street. There's two places right down the street from me, but one of the places I dropped in a couple times over the last, just to see if I wanted to change gyms or not. It's like, this one is very close. Like my gym now is 30 minutes away, 35 minutes away. and it's sure it's kind of on the way home from work, but if like they don't have a shower there, so when I'm training in the morning, it's like, well, now I got to do this weird thing where I shower in the sink, and that's not that enjoyable. And it's like I could get a gym membership and then go to the gym afterwards, but it's like I have a gym at home. Like I have a full weightlifting gym in my basement, so there's no. I did that so I didn't have to go to the gym anymore, so I didn't have to spend money on the gym. But it's if and so I've just kind of been going back and forth on, do I want to go to this new gym, which has a completely different vibe to it. It's like it's very much more relaxed than the place that I've been going to for the last since 2017. But it's and it's I like the instruction and the quality of the roles and the teachings, and and everybody's pretty nice, and it's do I want to go to a different place because the place next to me is more convenient, or do I just need to change? And I mean, some of my friends in California, they'll like every year they'll go down to San Diego and they'll spend a week just going to different gyms in San Diego, which is epic as hell if you ask me. But and they like pick out which gyms they're going to go to, and then they go and train. And it's just a bunch of dudes in San Diego renting a house, and they just go train jiu-jitsu for a week. Like that's like everyone should do that. It's like fine, even if you don't travel to a different city, it's like just go. Everybody has like a week free trial. It's like take one of your old gis, tear the patch off of it, and be like, and just go get a free trial. And it's like, dude, it's
I tend to keep pretty generic gis. Well, actually, a teammate just pointed that out to me the other day. I was standing there. He's like, dude, that is the most generic gi I've ever seen. There's not a single patch on it. I was like, because it was $60. And I had a coupon that saved $50 on it. So no patches, buddy. Thanks. But no, I agree with you. You definitely should just visit other gyms, travel around. I had a friend I spoke to from Australia. They had gone over to Worlds over the summer, and she was like, look, when we got there, she didn't compete. I think one of her teammates was competing, and during their time there, though, they're like, look, we trained at a different gym every day. Just it was amazing. So
if you plus by going to other gyms, especially if you've been doing jiu-jitsu pretty consistently for 5 years, you'll know immediately if you go to other gyms on the caliber of training that you're getting from your gym just by going to another gym. You're either like this, the training I'm getting at my gym is either better, the same, or worse than this gym I'm going to. You'll know immediately. And it's
early on in my training, and I think when I started 2015, jiu-jitsu was at this rising point. It wasn't moving fast, but it was getting to that point. Like the leg lock game hadn't hit where it was like everybody's doing leg locks now. It was still relatively basic. You had your some people doing deep half guard, but not a lot of lasso going on. We were working on lasso at my gym, so I remember going to a friend's gym nearby, and I was a white belt at the time still. I was rolling with a couple of guys, and I took it as a fairly high compliment. They're like, dude, like you roll like you're a white belt, you definitely roll at least like you've been blue belt for a few years. Like, oh well, thanks. And thinking about my gym is like just the way we trained. Now if you take me, and granted I'm very inconsistent now, you take me and put me in another gym now, and the way that jiu-jitsu is just fucking moving so fast, it's like, holy shit, like why are they rolling that? Like, why are their bodies moving that way? Oh no, they're just inverted. Why would you do that? Don't do that. Like, go to half guard. I like that.
I mean, the only guy I knew that was there's two guys there. at Cassio's years and years ago. It was like the kid that go-go plotted me. He was doing inverts. I mean, he was just like, he was constant. Like he was just that. I mean, he was just that guy. And then this other guy, Mark, he would do some invert stuff sometimes, but like no one was really doing it. I mean, in 2008, not a lot of people were doing jiu-jitsu, period. It wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say jiu-jitsu got real popular probably after 2004, 13, 14-ish, where it's now everybody's doing jiu-jitsu in some capacity. In some capacity, everybody's doing jiu-jitsu, and I don't know why, but it is.
I think
they are
now the availability of it. I mean, in some places there's jiu-jitsu, gym on every corner. Where I am, there's at least 5-6 gyms within a 10-mile radius, and maybe not 10, it might be 5-mile radius. And I think also too, what's happening is you're starting to see jiu-jitsu in mainstream, activities. You're seeing a lot of actors doing jiu-jitsu. So, you might catch wind of like Henry Cavill doing jiu-jitsu, or Gal Gadot. Nope, no Ben Affleck though. No Batfleck. But the rest of the Justice League doing jiu-jitsu, and it's like, oh, cool. Let me check it out. MMA is, even though, there was a period where MMA, you saw a lot of jiu-jitsu, and now you're seeing a lot more stand-up and less jiu-jitsu, but still, that carryover is there. And and even wrestlers, high school wrestlers, sometimes they're referred, to the mats as well. But when you look at where this sport is going, I remember 05 was when the UFC really hit its boom with the first season of The Ultimate Fighter, and Brock Lesnar was there. I would say about 2010, maybe. I had this feeling of, because I would order the fights every month, and only maybe one friend, 2 friends would come over, maybe 3 people I would know, we could talk about the fights. And I remember thinking to myself, I was like, man, I wish this was a little bit more popular. And then the Fox deal happened, and you start seeing fights on Fox a little bit more often. And then you started getting your casuals coming in. Then ESPN got the deal, and now it's just super heavy with like, and with those casual fans coming in now, you get people who kind of know what a basic armbar is or a rear naked choke. So, but there was a point where I was like, I wish we had that. Now that we, once we got it, I was like, holy shit, I hate this. And I'm at that weird feeling with jiu-jitsu where it's like, man, I wish we had a little bit more, mainstream. Oh, fuck. Now everybody knows it. And the thing is, put someone in jiu-jitsu, and, it doesn't cure bullying completely. Like when I say that, like you put the bully in jiu-jitsu, and, they'll, stop being a bully. Sometimes you'll get a dick that'll take jiu-jitsu, and now they're going to go be a dick elsewhere with jiu-jitsu. But you do get those people now where it's like, there's caution. It's like, oh, I don't know what the fuck that guy knows. I know he knows something.
We've had a couple. Yeah, we've had a couple of those guys, but they either stop being a dick, or they just don't come back. Which, like, one guy, and I don't think he was even trying to be a dick. He was just, he just never grew out of the spaz phase, and it did become a problem. And there was like one incident that I can recall on a Saturday where it was just, everyone was told to get off the mat except for him, and we just kind of watched him just get like, and he wasn't even doing anything to like there was no submission. There was not, like, it was just one of those, you're just like, I'm just going to pressure you. And it was like, but he wasn't even pressuring him. He's definitely pressured everybody else on that mat way more than he was pressuring him. And he's like, no, like, I'm not even doing anything. He's like, yeah, but I said tap. He's like, I don't care. We're not doing anything. He's like, I'm not even pressuring down on you. I'm not doing anything. He's like, just because you want the roll to end, because you got yourself into a disadvantaged like position doesn't mean it's over and we're just gonna stop and reset. And he just, I don't know, he like, and that was just like, and that's not like why this was happening, but it was, I mean, there was anytime he came to the gym, like they were just making him roll with like people that could just handle him and keep him without hurting anybody else. Cause it was probably going to become a problem. And eventually he got his blue belt, and we were all just like, what? Like, is he, but I don't know. I guess he calmed down. I don't know. I haven't seen him in a while. I don't know if he moved or what the deal was.
He got his blue
But
belt.
yeah,
You know how that goes. Oh, blue belt,
yeah,
time to go.
like, I'm out. Yeah. I mean, I know he was still going in some capacity, but I know he didn't live here all the time. So he might've been in college and just went back to college or something. But there have been a couple of times where somebody comes in and they're just overly cocky, and they just get, and they don't even get smashed bad either. You know, it's just like another, especially when it's like the beginner white belts are rolling with other beginner white belts, and it's, and they're doing their week trial. And by the end of the week trial, they realize they really were not as tough as they really thought they were. And, somebody half their size is spinning circles around them, and you never see them again. And you're like, yeah. It's like, okay. But it's,
that's the ego check. It's like they
yeah,
come in with the ego,
they
thinking
can't
they're the
handle it.
baddest dude, and then once they get smashed, it's like
Can't handle it.
and
Plus,
it's
like,
always a million excuses.
so it's good for me. It's like I was bullied, so it's just like, I'm just getting beat up more. Neat, cool. I'm used to this.
Yeah.
So I'll keep coming back for this. At least this is consensual. So it's,
I think I was talking to, I was talking to someone this weekend about the ass kicking I took, and they're like, the weird thing is you pay for this.
You do.
Like, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
In a weird way, you do. You do. But sometimes
I
you
wonder,
get to deal the ass kicking. So it's,
yeah, true.
those
But I
days
wonder,
feel really good.
like, are we paying really for like the off switch though? It's like, there's the safety versus like, yeah, I could just, when my neighbor, my old neighbor at least, when we got to talking, we finally became friends. I was like, ooh, like this guy, he's in shape. He's fit. Like I want to grapple with this dude. And it's like, okay, well, why don't we just go to the gym? At least there's like a waiver and rules versus the neighborhood just out here in the grass. It's like, oh no, you just pulled his shoulder out of socket. No, he didn't sign that waiver.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the off switch. I mean, in some aspects, it is kind of therapy. I know my gym.
It is.
I mean, my gym preaches a lot. It's not. I mean, their whole thing is it's not about jujitsu. It's like, I mean, they'll, if you're having problems, they'll come in anytime you want. They'll come talk to you in the office anytime. And it's like, they're pretty good about that. And it's, they understand that it's like, yeah, they're running a business, but also it's like in a stupid cliche sounding way, it is like, this is their family, and they want to nurture their family, and they want to make sure that, they're everybody that's part of the family is loved and accepted. And sometimes you may not always feel that way. And just like any family, families can fall apart if you really want them to, but it's, and some guy, and some people, they're, the black sheep, and it's like, why you just can't go to one gym and then be like, yeah, I guess this is the gym. It's like, that might not be the gym for you. It's like, sure, maybe it was 2 years ago. Maybe it's not now, it's like, that's kind of where I'm at. Which is like, I love them, but it's like, maybe that's not the gym for me anymore, because it's this, it's not that I don't want to keep going. I love the people I train with, but it's for me now, it's more of a convenience thing.
Sure.
It's like I've, especially with focusing on bodybuilding and doing other things, it's I mean, it's not a cheap sport. It's, depending on where you're going, it can, as far as I know, and I'm sure Casio's is more expensive than this now, but when I started, it was $140 as many times as you wanted to go per week. And it got cheaper depending on how many times you wanted to go. But it was like 140 was as much as you want. Come to every class, morning, midday, night, every day if you wanted to. And that was 140. And now it's like you see places where it's, it's like, well, you can come as much as you want, because it's sort of, unless you're like a beginner, and it's like, well, we only have the 2 beginner classes and an open mat on like Saturday or something. So you come to the 3 classes and it's $200. You're just like, whoa, what the hell? Which is, I mean, it's not cheap. It's expensive, but
I used to do a breakdown in my head about it when I first started. I was on once per week because I didn't have a choice. Like right now, I choose to do just the Saturdays, but back then my work schedule, I worked noon until 9:30, and classes started at like 6 o'clock and they ran until about 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And so I would only do the Saturday, and it was like, okay, well, with the price that it is per month, I'm going 4 times per month. So if I break it down to this much per class, it's like, that feels reasonable per week. Okay, that's fine. And once I started going more, I was like, oh, this is even better. Now the price per week gets cheaper in my mind, even though I'm still paying the same amount per month, but now I'm going more and it feels more justified. But it's
for me,
not cheap.
For me, if however much it costs monthly, if I can go enough times so that it's $20 a time, to me, that is worth it. Because most places, if you go and drop in, $20. That's a pretty standard price. Sometimes I've seen it as much as like $25. But it's, the last time I went back to Casio's, like, they didn't even charge me. There's like, nah, whatever. It's like, yeah, welcome back. They're like, welcome back. I mean, there was a while right before I moved for college. I was like, yeah, I gotta stop my membership. I can't do it anymore because I'm moving, and I think there was like 3 months left before I was moving, and they were like, who cares? Just keep coming. We don't care if you pay us for these 3 months. And like, it was crazy. I was like, that was wild to me that they were even willing to do that. Like, I didn't even ask for it. Like, his wife was just like, no, just keep coming. Like, you don't have to pay us. I'm like, well, I do have to pay you, but it's
like I should.
I should. So, yeah. But I mean, and I debated, and I guess now I found out my spot does do, like, you can just buy packs of classes. So you're not like beholden to a membership. And if I do decide to go, instead of like reinstating my membership, I'll probably just buy like a 10 pack and so I can go, whenever I need to.
That's good.
But it's, and I may do that on top of, going to the gym more that's next to me. But it's like part of the problem is it is now more convenient for me to go to the night classes. The issue with that is, like, now there are so many people that are members of this gym now. So many people. Like, when I first started, there was night classes where maybe had 10 people, like each night class. I was like, oh, and like a big class was maybe 15. And now you go, regardless of, and it's not a big gym, it is a very small gym. Like, the mat space is not big at all. And they definitely need to get a bigger space, but I don't know if they can. But now it's like you go and it's easily 25 people or more, like, each class. And so I went to the mornings because nobody was going to the morning classes. It was like 6 people. I was like, this is more my speed, man. And it's like, there's not so many people. I mean, it does become a problem when because they want everybody to train. And so they start, making the space and for rolls less and less. And it's like, and then they're like, well, we can't really lessen it anymore. And so now it's like, we gotta kind of pick and choose, who gets to roll, and there's only limited time for rolling. And it's, it's like, if I'm, it's like, sure, people are going to take breaks. And so that happens. Some people don't take, I mean, there are times where I go train and I won't take a single break between. It's like the buzzer goes off. I get back in line. And it's like, sometimes that's like a goal when I go train. It's like, today you don't get breaks between rolls. You just go roll to roll to roll to roll to roll. And it's,
Same here.
That's brutal. Because especially if you have a tough roll and you come out and you're already completely gassed, and you're like, here we go. And you get about 60 seconds. But
there are times where I should take a break. This past weekend, I should not have even actually been there. But I was like, I think I've had some time off for the shoulder. I think I should be fine. And I was fine. I actually did very well. I didn't re-injure my shoulder at all, period. I felt pretty good because I was, that was the main goal, is like, don't re-injure the shoulder. I protected my shoulder very well. But the problem with protecting my shoulder very well, I became vulnerable in other spaces. But the ideal was, I talked to my coach, was like, all right, back to business. So I show up on Saturday. It was a small class. So I was like, all right, this is good. This is Dante friendly. Get out there, warm up. We, fight for grips. And then he goes, we're going to do King of the Hill. I was like, oh, fuck. Like, there's no way for me to slow roll or protect myself. I am in the trenches. And then what makes matters worse, I was one of the first people down. It's like, well, fuck. Yeah. Like, I have nothing like here. So but then, as the class went on, it was like, okay, well, look, once we get to the open mat, I'm not even going to roll during open mat. I think I'm just going to kind of cool out and wait until the private lesson, and then I talked to my coach, something came up for him, and I was like, that's perfect. Cause let me give my shoulder a little bit more time, even though I didn't get hurt. Yeah. Let's give it some more time. One of the purple belts goes, hey, Dante, you good to roll? I was like, yeah, sure. Let me grab a mouth guard. I wasn't good to roll. Not at all. Then he kicked the shit out of me. And then after he kicked shit out of me, that wrestling kid that I was talking about, the white belt, we locked eyes. It was like, let's roll. He tossed me up and down the mat. And then, I threw him once. And then it was like, okay, we're done. Well, I look over, see another fellow blue belt. I was like, why the fuck not? I'm already this deep in. Let's just keep going. Meanwhile, I should have probably been gone 20 minutes prior, but but that's the thing though too. It's like if my body can do it, I will keep rolling. Unless I physically can. Like during King and Hill, I did get not hurt, but I was in a little bit of discomfort. So, I rolled over to the side and I didn't compete, in the next, cycle through. But it's like, okay, I physically feel fine. I'm going to keep going. And, kind of speaking to the, you show up to a class, you say no breaks this class. That's my goal. I think more often than not, I try to make that my goal all the time, because it's like, at least I know I can do that. I don't have the best cardio. I'm not in the best shape, but it's like, I know I can fight. It's like, I'm going to, I'm not going to be a limp fish out there, when it comes time for sparring. You'll have to do some work. But, ultimately, the thing for me is I want to know that I can still get out there and keep going. My gas tank might be, approaching E. I still want to be able to, like, look, let's push. All right, it's at E. Let's see how much further we can push it. And, as soon as I say, all right, that's class, it's like, oh, okay. All right, let me get the fuck out of here.
Sometimes when you're on E though, and you decide to go again, and because you're like, let's really see how far it is, and you got nothing left. Sometimes those are the best rolls though, because you really find out about you find out something about yourself in those rolls every time. Whether you either completely gas out to the point where you're like, dude, and you kind of not necessarily give up a submission to stop, but it's like you're holding on for dear life and just praying that the buzzer goes. It's just like, I have nothing left, legitimately. But I mean, I would, cardio wise, jiu-jitsu is some of the best at least high intensity cardio that you could really
Mhm.
be doing, especially considering, I don't know how long. I mean, for us, it's, usually we get about 30 minutes to roll. Some days we come in, we warm up, and it's like we're rolling the whole time. We're like, hell yeah! And usually that means Tony's on the mats, and he's gonna be killing some people. So those are always fun rolls. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think whenever we haven't done it in a while, well, this weekend discounted, but when it was under old ownership, sometimes coach would come in and just say, we're just going to start the timer after the warm up, start the timer. And I don't know, there's just like the
good
biggest
days, man.
smile will come across my face. It's like,
Yeah, those are great
yes,
days. Like, those
let's
are great
go.
days. I mean, like, sure, learning new things and drilling is a necessity,
Mhm.
but like the real reason we're all there is to just kick the shit out of each other. It's like
Yeah.
really, it's just like,
It's like I tell people, it's the big thing to me is getting humbled. I had, issues as a kid. I had anger issues, and you know at nerd rage, I can't remember on that episode. It might have been hinted at sometimes because Bobby likes to kind of poke jokes at my
yeah.
anger growing up. It's like, but but part of me going to jiu-jitsu is to get humbled, to
Yeah,
remind me, like, look, dude, you're not the baddest motherfucker. Like,
yeah.
you can get fucked up by someone that's 70 pounds lighter than you,
That's
with ease. And like, what are you going to do? Like, I remember
nothing.
last spring, it was like a holiday, a bank holiday or something, and I happened to be off on that day anyway. And there was a female brown belt, tiny young lady. We tap hands, we go. Within 30 seconds, she's on my back, and I cannot remove her from my back. I'm fighting for my life. Like, I'm concerned now because I'm thinking I don't know what to
Like,
do.
this backpack is gonna kill me.
Yeah, it's like, why is this backpack like inching closer and closer to my neck? Like, and yeah, I mean, the only way out was the tap. I,
Yeah,
I didn't end up having a tap. I was defending, but I was like, the only way to get her away from my back is a tap. But the problem is, if we reset and she gets my back again, I've got a lot of questions to answer to myself. And the question is, like, why was that so? And I mean, not to take anything away from her. I mean, she's a fucking brown belt. You know, that's her job, and she knows her job well. Get to the
yeah,
best position. But for me, it's like, I don't want her here. Like,
yeah,
my job is to keep you away from me. And it's like, well, shut up, dummy. Like, but that's a big thing for me is, you know, getting that reminder. you know
yeah,
if I'm working through something heavy in life, if I'm going through something, I go to class, lose myself in the reps, I lose myself in the environment. And once we're done with class, maybe it all comes back. I used to go to therapy right after class, which was kind of unfair because I
yeah,
felt good. I felt great. So when I go to therapy, they're like, so how are things? I'm like, everything's great, everything's awesome. My finger might be bent in a different direction than it should be bent, but I'm like, no, I'm feeling great. I'm sitting there with the fucking tape, like, tape my finger up in therapy session. And it's like, doesn't look great. No, I'm feeling pretty good. But now I go like nowhere near class. So it's like a better assessment. Like, so how are things? And I can get to the heart of it. But if I go in after class, I don't care about the problems of the world for me, because that weight has been lifted off of me by getting beat up.
yeah. It's,
Um,
I mean, that's pretty common. I mean, I think there's, I don't know when the last time I went to jujitsu was where I was perfect, other than when I first started, where I was perfectly healthy and uninjured. I mean, even now, it's like my finger now, I don't even know what's going on with my finger now. My right pinky, sometimes I'll just bend it and it won't actually bend because the tendon on the inside of my
yeah.
knuckle like gets caught on something and it won't actually
Mhm.
let me bend my pinky. And I am, and like it started happening about a year ago. And I was, when I would roll, I would feel it get stuck, and I would panic because I'm like, oh God, because it's like if they do something and like grab my hand and like I'm worried my finger's gonna break or something. And it's like sometimes it'll happen, and I'm just like doing random stuff in the daytime, and I'll put my hand in my pocket or something, and my and I'll feel it get stuck. And I'm like, dude, what is
Yeah.
going on with my finger? And that is terrifying to me. I don't know what's going on with that, but I should probably get that looked at.
I had the same issue with my ring finger on my left hand. So I don't know what happened. It was upon my return in July, my first class back after a couple months off with the groin injury. Saturday class, we do a little quick jog around the gym to kind of get our blood going. And then we go right into warm-ups, which is grip fighting. And I didn't do anything different, anything weird. And everything felt fine. As soon as class was over, though, and that class, it wasn't anything like lasso heavy or spider guard heavy, nothing with grips. So after class, my ring finger wouldn't bend and it was swelling up. And I was like, what the fuck happened here? And then for months, it was a nightmare. It was just bad. And it's my wedding band doesn't fit anymore. I immediately bought a silicone ring. Just like, look, we'll just put this on. But my wedding band does not, it barely goes over the, it like gets to the knuckle. And it's like, yep, that's as far as we go. We're not going over this bad boy. But, for a while, I couldn't put my hand in my pocket, in my jean pocket, because it felt like, and it was uncomfortable. I was like, no, we're not doing this. And I know there's kind of a badge of honor when it comes to jiu-jitsu and gnarled fingers.
No, pass.
Yeah, I'm not on.
I don't want that.
My fingers.
I don't want that.
My fingers look pretty rough for a regular person, but as far as jiu-jitsu, world goes, my hands look perfectly fine. My pinky has something weird. There's a weird dip. I can't even explain it. I'm looking at it. It looks weird. I don't know where that came from. My other finger, my other pinky, that happened during football. I got tangled up in a jersey, and the guy kept going and dragged me by my pinky.
Yeah,
and I was just like, oh shit. And but for the most part, I mean, I don't like the injuries that I sustain tend to be now because of just poor, being in poor shape, which is kind of the big thing in my mind is like, look, get strong again, and quit fucking around. Because
what do you like? So you keep saying you're in poor shape. It's like, I don't think anybody that does jujitsu is really necessarily in poor shape. So what in your definition, I guess, what does poor shape mean?
I guess well, I know for me, one of the bigger issues is just my weight. Like my stomach is in the way. Now also with kind of the asterisk to that, I wear a colostomy bag. So it's more that I'm concerned about my stomach on the mat, like protecting my stomach.
Gotcha.
But also, it's like, okay, hey, we're going to do Granby rolls today. Well, I can invert. I can do some Granbys, like not by choice. Like if you and I are rolling and I got to invert, I'm going to invert because the move, the positioning dictates that I should invert. But if I'm just willingly going to invert and thinking about it, it could be more, mind over matter. But I also think about my body just not being strong. Like I'm definitely like not as strong as I used to be. And I feel that when, I'm doing anything on the mat, whether it be, getting, an overhook and trying to control the position, from half guard or something, top half guard, or trying to fight for the underhooks. It's like, okay, this guy's out muscling me. So in recent months being on the mat, that's the big thing that's been in my mind is like, just get back in better shape, get strong, and just like cardio as far as on the mat goes, I think is mainly for on mat. Like me going out and running around the lake 2 or 3 times, sure, it doesn't hurt, but the best way to improve my cardio on the mat is just to do more jiu-jitsu. But that's my biggest personal gripe towards myself is like, just do more jiu-jitsu.
I mean, I would say you don't even need to run, really. You could walk. I mean, for me, I know when I'm doing a lot of like cycle, like spin bike stuff, like I have a spin bike at home, and I'm not like doing spin bike classes or, I'm not going crazy. Like I'm going at a pace where it's just like I'm just riding my bike down the street kind of thing on like flat ground. That is kind of as much as I will do. So it's like there is some, I feel a good resistance in my thighs and in my legs. But I'm breathing not heavy. Like I could still carry a conversation, but it's like after, 10, 15 minutes, I'm going to start to sweat. But it's not like my heart rate isn't through the roof. It is elevated, but not through the roof. And usually I'll watch, I don't know, a TV show or something. I'll just put like the latest one when I was in prep, I was just for bodybuilding prep, I was doing 45 minutes of cardio a day. So, in the beginning, I would wake up in the morning and just do fasted cardio. Not that it matters if you're fasted or not, but I work out in the morning. So it's like I would do my fasted cardio starting at 5:15, and then at 6 I would do my lifting stream. And I would just put on an episode of Smallville. I was like, guess it's like there's enough episodes where it's like I could watch this every day for 6 months, and I like in a session of cardio, and I'm not going to run out. So they're each 10 seasons, 21 episodes, 45 minutes apiece. It's like we're good. It's like I know it's like, all right, episode starts. Some episodes are a little longer, like 47 minutes. Some are a little shorter, 42 minutes. But it's like when the episode is done, I'm done with cardio, and I don't have to do any timing, and I'm not killing myself on the bike. But I do notice, at least at the time, because at the time I was still going to Jiu Jitsu, there does come a point where it's like, oh, I can do like 20 minutes of rolling and not be completely gassed. It's like I still have a lot left in the tank. So you could easily do, steady state cardio where you're not overly, your heart rate is elevated, but not so much where you're like tasting blood in your throat kind of thing. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like something's wrong.
I used to get on the exercise bike and play Madden.
Same thing. Yeah, you can do the same thing.
One game is about an hour, roughly 45 minutes to an hour. But the problem that would happen is as I'm playing, it would vary depending if I threw an interception or some shit. Mm-hmm. Like the pedaling got more aggressive.
That's fine. Let it happen. All right. I mean, if that look, like, and Joe says this. Joey says this all the time. It's like if it's gonna get you, if that's your entry, and you're like, well, that's fun to do because I get to play a video game while I do this thing that everybody fucking hates. Nobody wants to do cardio. But if I get to play a video game or I get to watch a show uninterrupted that I want to watch, it makes it easy. It's very simple to do. And if that's the barrier to entry, it's like everybody should just find a thing, whether that be like get one of those walking treadmill things. They're pretty small now. You can get them for $200 on Amazon, and just sit there and walk and watch a TV show or play a video game or, do something. But it doesn't even have to be for martial arts. It could just be for yourself. And it's like, eventually, you're going to start feeling better about yourself. You're going to have more energy. You're going to want to, if you feel like you eat like shit, you're going to start eating better. I'm a big proponent in, tracking all the food you eat, just because if you know exactly how much you're eating every day, losing weight becomes a non-issue, because it's like, hey, I know that over the course of this week, I didn't lose any weight. And over the course of this week, on average, I ate this many calories every day. So that means if I didn't gain weight and I didn't lose weight on average, I need to eat less. And so it's very easy to just be like, okay, well, this next week, what if I lower my calories by 100? For what I did last week on average per day, I'll lower it next week by 100 and then see what happens. And that's basically that's all it is. It's just nobody wants to do that part. That's the problem.
Of course not.
They're like, well, I eat the same thing every day. It's like, okay, well, that doesn't work. I mean, it can, I guess, if you're weighing your food out and you're saying, okay, I am truly eating the same every day because I'm weighing my food. So I know that this is how much but it's like, if you're weighing your food, so you are eating the same thing every day, that like, you might as well just track at that point, because it's going to be a whole hell of a lot easier. But
yep. I mean, that was a route that I was, kind of on a few years back, and saw great benefits from it. And then it
Yeah.
just, I think in my own mind, I was like, okay, well, I think I got it under control, and I didn't have it under control. So, now it's time to kind of get it back under control. But
How to get out of control, I guess, is like
I think just again thinking, oh, I can manage this. Oh, piece of junk here, piece of junk there. It's like,
yeah,
okay, I think I got
yeah,
this. And then it starts to
yeah,
snowball because, like, sugar,
yeah,
it's addictive. Um,
very.
but I think, in these times, especially now, like I said earlier on, talk about Mr. Jiu Jitsu, his Instagram account, and, kind of to a degree shaming people into better health. It's like for some people that work, for
It
others,
does.
some are like, resistant against that. But for a lot of people, you tell them, it's like, well, look, you say you care. Well, show that you care. Show that you give a
Yeah,
damn. And I think that's kind of where you have to have a conversation with yourself.
right.
You
I
have to be
mean,
like, well, what's important?
from what I've seen, there's really only there are three types of motivation, I guess, that get people to actually make a change. And one is the shame. It's like they're shamed into it, and they're like, I'm done being shamed. I'm gonna do something about it, and they end up sticking with it and doing something about it. There's like the revenge thing, where it's like,
Mhm.
this thing happened to me, and it's almost like self shame at that point. It's like, well, this happened to me because, and the cliche is like, oh, I got broken up with, so now
Yeah.
I'm gonna get in better health, and I'm gonna show them, which great, that does work on some level, but eventually that has to turn into something
Yeah.
different, because it's not gonna eventually you're gonna stop giving a shit. Hopefully you stop giving a shit about that relationship. And
Hopefully.
then and the third thing I would say would be you would be the wake up call people, where, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like a medical issue. It could just be you woke up one day and you're like, man, I really need to make a change. And that's sort of just like you know, the the self the self-help category people, which I would say most people are in that that category. Um
Yeah.
just because they look, if you don't want to make your own health a priority in your life, you're not going to do it. Like, people come into my workout streams. I stream my workouts on Twitch every morning at 6 a.m. Eastern. Um, that people come in all the time, like, man, what motivates you? I'm like, look, man, if you're looking for motivation, and me to give you, like, to tell you some magical thing that's going to motivate you, come to the wrong place. Like, I am not going to motivate you whatsoever. There are people that say I give them motivation just by seeing me, like, quote unquote, get after it.
Sure.
Everyone, they're like, man, it's like, you're my motivation. I'm like, okay, neat. But it's like, what happens if I just stop? Are you gonna stop working out if I stop working out? That's, it's like, so I tell people all the time, I'm not the guy to come to for motivation. It's like, motivation only gets you in the door. At some point, you need the discipline to continue. The motivation needs to turn into discipline at some point. Otherwise, none of it matters. So it's like,
Absolutely.
you really have to look in the mirror and be like, do I want this for myself? Yes or no? Is it going to suck initially? Probably, maybe. But the sad part is the hack that does in fact work and continues to work, which is debatably the easiest part of all of this, everyone seems to think is the most difficult part, and they don't have time to do it. When in reality, tracking your food takes no time at all. Is it annoying? Yes. I mean, I've been doing it since 2016. It's still annoying, but at this point, it has become a habit, to where if I eat something, even when I'm like so over Thanksgiving weekend, I told myself I'm not going to track. I'm not going to, because I didn't care for that weekend. I was like, I'm not going to bother tracking it. It's like, it's fine. It's just a weekend. And it took so much energy to not want to track my food, because I've been doing it for so long. And I'd eat, I'd put the stuff on my plate, or, and I'd be like, well, and I'd grab my phone to go and, get my app to put all my food in. I'm like, to the point where I just had to put my phone in my backpack and not look at my phone. Otherwise, I was probably going to end up tracking and just be an asshole about it. So it, sometimes eventually it does become habit. It's like, I mean, what do they say? It takes 10 days to form a habit. So it's like, if you just every day, it's like track all your food in one day. And it's like, did it. Next day, do it again. It takes 10 seconds, especially now with you can scan stuff, and like, as long as it's like you're eating the serving size that it says, you're fine. I mean, if anybody truly wants a wake-up call that thinks they're eating okay, scoop out, take a jar of peanut butter and scoop out what they think is 2 tablespoons, which is a serving size. I think a serving size is 32 grams. And if they have a scale, take that peanut butter or even better, put the jar of peanut butter on the scale, zero it out. Don't look at the scale, and just scoop out what they think is 32 grams or the 2 tablespoons. And most people are going to be very surprised at what they've actually been eating in terms of peanut butter. It's like most people's serving size of peanut butter that they think is 2 tablespoons is closer to 4 or 5. It's like, that's a significant amount of calories that they're eating extra that they think they're not.
Was like even thinking about like, just like cereal, for instance, kind of one of the worst examples, with all the sugary, but even still, you think a bowl of cereal, what's a serving? It's like 3/4
anywhere between. It's usually a 1/4 cup to a 1/2 cup, depending. It's like most I've seen is around anywhere between 46 to 52 grams of whatever cereal you're eating, which if you weigh that out in a bowl, it's nothing. It's absolutely nothing.
A splash in your bowl.
It's like most people's normal serving size of a bowl of cereal is closer to 2.5, sometimes 3, which is it's like 100 grams of cereal isn't a lot when you look. It's like that's a bowl of cereal, 100 grams. It's like, but that's over 2 servings of. It's like, I love Life cereal. I'm a weirdo. It's like my favorite cereal, original Life cereal.
It has its moments,
and that's 42 grams serving. It's like, if I have 100 grams of it, that's almost 2.5 servings of which is what it is. But
yeah. Well, funny thing is about this episode is where we ended up at is where I wanted to start us singing, but we ended up on a jiu-jitsu journey, which works. No, it works. It works perfectly fine. Honestly, I want to have you back on and talk more in that
absolutely,
pocket, because
sure.
I think quite a few listeners can gain from that, and myself as well. But before we get out of here, Daiya, thank you very much for again making the time and just sharing your story with us and the information that you had to offer. Before we get out though, you got any shouts or mentions you want to drop for us?
Got my Twitch streams on Daiyabolic. The O is actually a 0 on that one, so it's spelled with a 0. And then but Daiyabolic on Instagram. I'm sure you'll put a bunch of these in the description.
Yeah, in the show notes.
Yeah. Shout out to Team Passos, Cassia Wernick. Yeah.
All right. And I'll make sure to get in the show notes your Twitch stream set up, so people want to go give you a follow over there and check out what's going on. And yeah, definitely want to have you back on here and go more into the nutrition route. I always get sidetracked as I do any episode, as anyone who listens, they know the vibes. But before we get out here, as always, listeners, thank you so much for all the support, Appreciate the hell out of all of you. If y'all have any questions, concerns, criticisms, you know where to find me. You can find me at bjj.wiki on Instagram or Off the Mats Podcast, also on Instagram. Like I said, questions, concerns, want to be a guest, reach out. I'm open. I let people come on. I like you all. I love talking to people. I love talking to strangers. It's weird, but I love it. We here for you. I want to give a big shout out to Nerd Rage Radio. That's where I met Daiya at. What's up now?
Yeah.
Bobby, Joe, Chris, Marilyn Phil, Ricky Ticky, Chucky O, Raul, all you guys. Love you. Thank you. If it wasn't for Nerd Rage Radio, I probably wouldn't be doing a podcast. So that's where I got my start, and I carried it over here. So thanks, guys. I also want to give a shout out to my other podcasts. So You Like Horror. If you like scary movies, go check it out. As we are going to be going into 2024, we're going to be actually talking about cursed films. So, movies like The Exorcist was believed to be cursed. Poltergeist is kind of one of the most famous ones. The Crow, The Omen, Rosemary's Baby, things like that. We're going to be talking about the rumors and the mysteries behind all that stuff. So go check it out. And then there'll be some other themes plopped in there as well, not just all cursed films, but go check it out if you like scary movies. I do. So go listen. And last but not least, I want to give another big shout out to Daiya or Daiyabolic. Go check them out on Twitch. I'll have the link there in the show notes. And we're going to have them back on here. We're going to get into some more deep diving and conversation. And again, thank you, man. I really enjoyed the conversation. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And before we get out of here, because this episode drops on Christmas, for those who do celebrate, Merry Christmas. And if you're listening on Tuesday, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Boxing Day. And if you do Hanukkah, my bad, I missed you. But that doesn't mean I don't care. It's just the episode came out later. Sorry. But I love you all. Appreciate the hell out of everybody. You guys keep listening, and we're definitely going to keep making these shows. Thank you, everybody, and goodbye.
They were with it. Now let me sing a song.